Superman? Remember that movie? He went around the globe so fast it reversed the rotation of the Earth. Remember that? Again, I'm trying to use analogies because I'm not. You guys are getting way more sophisticated than me. Anyways, that's kind of my question, and it's kind of a discussion starter. I'm not claiming anything, right? I notice you guys want to stand on your arguments, and I'm like, man, maybe you guys are a little too serious for me. What do you think, host? Is that a valid question?
Well, the curve. Are you? Why are you? Why are you here, Lester?
I stumbled on this.
Okay,
It was
so
called
it wasn't like
Fridays.
just.
Now it's called Stationary Saturdays.
Okay, so you just stumbled on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is your first
Hey,
time?
plus I'm going down the rabbit hole. I've been going
Yeah,
down the
yeah.
rabbit hole
This your
because
first
I've
time?
been.
Yeah, he
It is
said
my
he's
first time.
questioning.
I'm totally. I don't. You guys. And I was just happy to stumble on you guys because I've already done a little of my own research, but you guys have got a lot more on me.
Well, CLW's had his hand up for a while. Should we get him in here and then come back
Okay,
to this?
so
Or?
I guess that was a question. You guys don't want to go down that one. Once again, what happens is my bullet when I shoot it from Ecuador? What happens to it?
On a ball
if
or
it's
on a
around,
ball or on a
if it's not both, if it's on a globe or if it's on a
well,
flat.
both exhibit downward forces, right? Or downward, whatever you want to call it. They call it gravity.
I'm saying
Others say
take
it's
gravity
electric.
out of it. What if you take gravity
Take
out
gravity
of it?
out of it? Okay. If you're on a
Yep.
ball, it shoots into space. If you're on a
Exactly.
if you're on a plane, it shoots into whatever is containing the water.
So what would happen to my bullet?
I just told you, bro. What do you mean?
Got one or it's a binary answer.
The wobble would be in your hands at that point, I believe.
Here, yeah, let's get CLW in here real quick because he's been waiting for a while.
Sorry. All right. I thought that would help, but I guess not. Thanks.
It's just something we can't really test, Lester. It's a good thought experiment, though. I probably would have used the lasers maybe as a better example because they say that bends around the globe. But yeah. Anyway, let's go to CLW. Then we'll go to one mic and then see if Steamboat is up.
Yeah, I hope you're having a good day. I wanted to. I've recently discovered that there's water in space. There's water in space, and they don't. NASA is even showing us that there's water in space. And I've been trying to reason out like, is it a vacuum? How come there's water in a vacuum? They're telling that there are galactic jets spitting water and all these other things, but it's a vacuum still. It doesn't make sense. Over 141 billion tons of water just in space. Has anyone come across this phenomena where NASA talks about finding a lot of water in space, nebula clouds, and all that?
Yeah, I've definitely come across it. They found the most distant reservoir, and how they describe it though is it's not condensed water, as in flowing water, massive. It's more water vapor. So it's dust clouds of water that they found that are in the massive load of tons that shadow any water that we've got here on Earth, make us look like a water droplet. But yeah, it's not condensed water, as in altogether. It's more mist.
You know what's funny? Oh, go ahead, CLW.
How can you have a mist in a vacuum? Is it really possible? Or vapor or whatever? There has to be an atmosphere for you to have a vapor or mist. Not in a vacuum. Basically, I'm trying to see this is just the firmament. The sort of the firmament you talk about the water.
I'll post it in the main chat here.
Hey, Sacred, I don't know if you see Proud's hand. Is she on co-host, or I see her as a speaker, but not as a co-host?
Nah, I don't even see her up here.
I see her hand, like she's waving.
Yeah, she's throwing up hands like a hand
throwing them
wave
gang
over and
signs
over and over.
Proud, are
Yeah.
you there? Proud, are you there?
Proud, what kind of gang? So what set you claim?
Proud. I don't see her.
Oh no! So we're down to just you.
Yeah, let me.
The solo cyborg.
I think she just dropped. She's probably going to try and come back up.
Yeah, I see the same.
Okay, while we get Proud situated real quick, let's go to One Mic. See what One Mic debates.
Yo.
So what's up? Welcome to Flatter Friday, Stationary Saturday.
Hey man, hey, it's all good, baby. Hey, I'm gonna go back to Lester's comment there, where he was, talking about shooting a gun without any gravity. We actually have a really good example of this, and it's how we do our actual surveying in real life.
Nice.
And in real life, we actually look at surveys by what's called rise over run. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, basically just like on a piece of paper, draw a couple mountains, from left to right, and then
Uh-oh, did he hit mute, or am I glitching?
Drop for me as well.
One mic.
Did I lose y'all?
Yeah, you went off for about 30 seconds.
My phone died. Okay, this is my first time on Twitter Spaces, so I guess I got to keep my screen moving. Anyway, rise over run is straight over. You go 90 degree up. You go 90 degree to the right. You go 90 degree up. You go 90 degree to the right. Rise over run surveying. That's how we do it. When you butt up surveys in the real world, they measure the Earth flat. And so that's when they created a thing called geodetic surveying. And in geodetic surveying is where you have to give those measurements, those 90 degree rise over run measurements, to the geodetic surveying committee, the power that be, and then they impose curvature on the actual measurements that are flat.
Wow.
So when he says, what if I were to shoot a gun with no gravity? It actually goes absolutely straight.
So that's flat.
On a flat surface.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
if anybody knows how,
the point, it is flat. I just proved
it. It's literally measured flat. That's why they created geodetic surveying in the first place. They would not need geodetic surveying at all if it were actually measured flat.
Why did they do the geodetic thing?
Well, because
he
it's
just told you.
Yeah, because basically it's a classic, it's so big, we can't see it that way. So therefore, we need to impose it upon the actual measurements on the ground. So basically what happens is, actual surveyors in the real world, they go measure these mountains and hills, and they go across miles and miles, okay? And they measure them all. And then another guy does it, and they butt them up together. And when they butt them up together, there is no 8 inches per mile squared in the long run.
Hey, One Mic, I got a question. One Mic. So if what you're telling me is, if I have 100 miles squared, and then right, that's a square, and then I have another 100 miles squared, 2 squares next to each other, and my project is right there on the border between 2 squares, and my project is, say, a 5 mile or so road or something like that. When I'm measuring across that border of these 2 100 mile squares, I don't account for any curvature?
No, what actually happens, I'll tell you exactly how it happens. So the surveyors go out in the field. They make their measurements. They give those measurements to the, I forget what it's called, I always do, but it's the powers that be. There's a name for the organization. That organization takes those measurements and automatically implicates, they times it by 0.99999923. They make all the measurements shorter, just automatically. They just do it automatically. And therefore, that way they can push it in and impose a curve on it, because in the real world, you don't measure it flat. And that is the biggest indictment of all of this shit. Everybody wants to argue all the BS. But the fact of the matter is, the guys who go on the ground and actually take the measurements, rise over run. I go straight, I go up, I go straight, I go up, I go straight, I go down, I go straight, all in 90-degree fashion. When you do that, it measures flat over the long run.
So what I'm hearing.
By the way, these are surveyors who have no axe to grind. They're not out there. All they're doing is taking measurements and then giving those measurements to the whatever it's called. It's like the AARP or some bullshit name like that. I can look it up. But basically, and they take the measurements and then impose a curve upon it. And then when you Google geodetic surveying, they say, well, geodetic surveying, that's the most accurate because that has the curve taken into account. And so anybody who's not aware of this would Google this and be like, oh, well, geodetic surveying, Google says that's the most accurate. Well, it's only the most accurate because they have artificially imposed curve where there is no curve. And it is yeah, go ahead.
One more question, right? So if I'm getting this correctly, when they're doing a triangulation and they're saying, hey, we have a triangle here and we're seeing spherical excess, that's not until the geodetic phase?
I'm not even going to that place. I'm talking about you hire a surveyor to survey your property. I got 16 acres in Kansas. And that dude goes over and he surveys the elevations and draws out his survey. When you take his survey, before it goes to the geodetic committee is what we'll call it. And somebody Google it for me because I'm scrolling my screen back and forth so I don't lose you guys. But he takes his measurements. He has to give it to the whatever committee, and they times it. They have a very specific way that they shrink it. They actually times it by like 0.999906 or something. It's all out there. And then, well, here's what's even more interesting. So that guy, he gets a survey done. He hires a survey company. They come out. They take rise over run. They send it to the Geodetic Survey, U.S. whatever. They put the measurements on it that are not true. Then, let's say 5 years later, this is actually how it happens. 5 years later, there will be a developer who wants to build whatever in this 16 acres. That developer goes to the Geodetic Survey Committee, sees what they times it by to shrink it, to impose curvature, and then they backwards re-engineer it. So then they'll go, okay, so this measurement, we need to times it by 1.00000076 to see what it actually is, because I'm about to build a long bridge. That actually happens. That actually happens.
So I'm right with you because I wrote about 4 or 5 articles about this topic, doing some research on it. And from what you're saying, it sounds exactly like what it says in all the documentation that I've looked at. It's flat until geodetics, and then geodetics is assuming an ellipsoid.
It's not even assuming, it's imposing. They take the measurements from the people, the actual surveyors who have no axe to grind, and they don't know any better, right? They're just like, hey, I'm a surveyor. We live on a globe. I have to give it to the Geodetic authority. Somebody please look that up. But anyway, that's what they do. And they're never the wiser, or most of them. Of course, there are some that are like, well, why the fuck are we giving these measurements to the Geodetic Survey Committee of the United States or whatever? And by the way, this is worldwide. They do it all around the world. And here's the reason why: because they have to. Think about it. They have
of course.
to.
They have their coordinate system. It has to match up to the coordinates.
They have to. Well, what they have to, because here's the thing: if they didn't do this, surveyors would go out and measure it flat as it is actually measured. And at some point, it would be actually kind of an interesting history lesson to see when this survey committee came, where they had to give all of their measurements to the survey committee. Like prior to that, it all measured flat. And then essentially they have to do it because it's so obviously measured flat.
Yeah. So, by the way, what do you know of? Maybe you haven't looked at it at all, but in case you have, I want to ask, what do you know of as like the longest plane survey, like, over however many miles? I've been trying to look for this as well, like something very long.
I read a book about the United States, the way they survey it. I'll have to dig it up.
Okay, yeah. Any info on that type of stuff? I love it, because that's what I feel like needs to be the focus of this argument. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
And I'll give you a nugget. I guess, take it for what it's worth. I know some people don't like these people or whatever, but what started my journey on this rabbit hole,
Oh, you glitched out again.
He forgot to move his screen.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's annoying to
mode
say, man. That's annoying to have to go up, and I'm scrolling. But there was a Globe Busters episode where they had a surveyor that's been in the business for 30 years or whatever, for a very long time. He lays it out pretty well. That set this whole ball in motion. This was a couple years ago or something, where I started really going down this rabbit hole. I so happen to have lived next door to a surveyor that's in the game. And he confirmed everything that this guy, who's a 30-year surveyor guy, said. So if you want to get essentially, there's a Globe Busters episode with a surveyor. I don't know where he's from, but there's a guy that's a surveyor, and he kind of lays it out, kind of almost in the way that I laid it out, but obviously much better. But that's a good introduction to this issue, because in my opinion, this is kind of unequivocal the argument. A lot of people like to argue a bunch of BS, but this is it's actually measured flat before they manipulate the data.
That's crazy.
They have to manipulate it. They have to manipulate it.
Yeah, the book I read was Measuring America by Linklater, Andrew Linklater. Measuring America. I read it a decade ago, and it was all about surveying the U.S. That's what it was. But that's interesting, one, Mike. That's very, very interesting. So I'm glad I was able to ask the question and get this thought started, because whatever you just said in this geodynamic mapping and curvature,
so they call it
imposed geodynamic. That is the weird situation. Imposed, I don't like that word already. But anyways, if that's the way it is, that kind of, you almost made the argument for a flat Earth, I think.
And I'm telling you, once you go down that rabbit hole, there are other ways that we measure it flat. There are other things that are super suspect, right? I mean, NASA, a lot of shit looks fake. Those kinds of things. We can look at stars and all those kinds of things. It looks flat. But this right here, these are guys who have no axe to grind. They're on the ground. They got hired to measure a piece of land. They measure it. And when you butt those pieces of land up, there ain't no 8 inches per mile squared. And so that was a problem. And so they created this geodetic surveying. It is literally a fake thing that they made up to impose the curvature. That is what it is.
And they're all in collusion too, because like you said, they have to do it everywhere, the whole world,
well, that's the whole thing. Like
globe.
That's the thing. Here's the most important thing if you're going to get into flat Earth stuff that I've come to realize is you have to accept, you have to get past the idea that this is a mass conspiracy. For a good reason, probably. For a good reason. Like, think about it. Like, back in the day, apparently they told everybody the Earth was flat, and if you left the land, you would fall off the ocean off the end, right? They're trying to keep you contained. Now, that's just a theory, but my point is we need to recognize, like, if this is true, it is the biggest, it is a huge conspiracy. So you have to get over that hump.
All the conspiracy theories I've ever seen come true, though. That's the problem, too.
I know that. I know. Well, tell me about it.
Conspiracy theory. Now I got my mind. Now I'm getting hot.
I know. Unfortunately,
I'm telling you, 8 times out of 10, they come true.
They kind of seem, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So that's weird.
And that's the thing, too. Who knows, like, to what extent, like, what it really is. Maybe there is some kind of space and they're hiding it for some reason. Maybe a good reason. Maybe there's not. Maybe they're just trying to keep us contained for a good reason because we'd all go crazy. Who knows? Who knows? But I can tell you this. I don't feel like they're telling us the truth at all. At all.
Yeah, so just to like add like a little caveat
I'll bet
top of all that stuff. When D3 is talking about the 100 square miles, right? It could be like 10 miles in any direction. Now they're supposed to be, according to, this sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles, should be 66 feet of curvature from point A to point B, right? And 10 miles in any direction. 100 square miles. So if they're like not accounting for this 66 feet of curvature that should be apparent, and then stitching all these plane surveys together to create a geodetic survey.
That's right. That's where it comes in. And
Right.
They literally have charts, and you can see it. They times it by 0.999926. They shrink everything in order to like wrap it around a ball. They like, think about it. They times all the measurements by 0.99, and then once again, when developers are ready to build on that piece of land, they do the backwards math to see what they actually got. And their feasibility period, by the way, they do that before they even purchase the land. They will put the land under contract, then go to I'll look it up. It's the I forget. It's the atmosphere. I forget what it's called, but it's something. It's out there. They go to that. They get the table in which this survey was shrunk, and they unshrink it to see what they're actually dealing with to build on the land before they even close on the land. They do that in the feasibility period. And it's, by the way, this is not like, this is not controversial. I'm not telling you something that's controversial. I'm telling you, this is how developers deal with this issue. That's how out of their way they have gone to hide it. Because at the end of the day, the surveyors are the ones that would be able to like unequivocally show that this thing actually measures flat. There is no 8 inches per mile squared over the long run. There is no curvature. It actually measures very, very flat.
What are they hiding?
Who knows, man? I'm happy to speculate with you.
Well, they made some massive assumptions with all this curvature stuff you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean,
assumptions times 1,000. Or they're lying, or they're hiding something. Seriously, I'm just following the money.
I mean, they're no doubt hiding something. I mean, I think we can all agree that they're hiding something. Now, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. Like, what if, like, what if? Who knows, dude?
Well, I know. That's too much. I'm sorry, but this has been I'm glad I chimed in with you guys. Hopefully, I'm sorry that I was kind of a jerk. I didn't know how you.
No. It's all good, bro. Sometimes we do open discussions. Sometimes we go straight to the hands and stuff.
That's what I'm saying. But one Mike, wow, man, you just kind of blew me out there for a minute. I'm gonna have to sleep on this one.
I'm gonna try to get a surveyor into the space one of these Fridays, and then we can really get down to it. Real quick, can D3 one of y'all call with me and try to help bring Proud back up?
Yeah.
All right, hold on a second. Yeah, I'm gonna drop.
All good. Do any of you guys think our subway, not our subway, yeah. Do you think we've gone under the water to the deep south in all directions?
You talking about like at a wall?
Yeah, with submarines, not our subways, our submarines. Do you think we've gone in all directions down towards the south to because if we're considering the flat Earth map, right? North is in the middle, south is every other direction, going away from the middle. Do you think we've been everywhere then? Anybody?
I honestly believe that they've probably searched every inch of that wall. I believe they've been all the way around it. I mean, that's just my thoughts. It's speculation. I can't tell you that they have, you know.
Yeah, I would speculate the same though. I think because we're pretty advanced, I guess, with our submarines and stuff. I think they can handle what's going on in the southern waters, right? Or would anybody know about that? Would I be wrong? Or that, yeah, it could be.
There's immense pressure in the deep water, so the submarine cannot go all the places. There's some places it cannot hold. The ocean is
well, I'm not saying deep.
We
I'm
wouldn't have to go deep.
Yeah, but a submarine can go fairly deep. But I think at the depths that they can go, I think they have gone. Because if anything, you can have ice coming out from the wall over the water where it's frozen. And they can actually, if you go down deep enough, you're under the ice. And I'm sure that they've done that.
No, they can't go under the wall. You can't go under a wall. Come on now.
I'm talking about the ice coming off the wall over the water. They don't have to have icebreakers to actually get through the ice. They can actually just go under the ice.
Oh, I didn't think about that. But to me, a wall is a wall. You can't go under the damn thing unless you dig. Unless you dig. I don't know. I'm just saying. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so Proud, you think it's an impenetrable thing, or do you think there's a way out of it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think about what do you think about flying deep over it and then landing and then drilling down and then like traversing that way. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it. We gotta
I have a
eventually find a way
question.
to do it one day, right? Go ahead, Ken.
I have
No,
a
I was just
question.
gonna say they don't they I mean it's speculation, but there's like people say that there's openings in that wall. If I'm not mistaken, it's I think of it in the terms of the moon map, right? Like we're at one edge of a larger circle. And so like from middle America, it'd be like going west towards the wall is where it starts to open up into the back part of the circle or whatever. The only reason I buy that at all is because the moon does seem to have a map and it seems to fit with that prog clock.
Like, what have you people thought about what is causing this ice ring around it? What is the cause of the ice?
Well,
It's cold.
that was gonna be my answer. If it's by, for example, if the ring is the end of it, right, and there is no other land outside of that final border, then that would kind of be towards space, right? The where things get really really cold, right? We know that when we go straight up, things get really really cold.
Well, they're not allowing us the blue ice.
I'm sorry, two people were talking. What happened? Yeah. Right.
It's just the same. And also in that map, I noticed there are funny things like these mythological creatures, like the horseman, dragons. There were some antelopes, lions. There was also some weird shit on that map too.
Yeah, all we got is speculation, right? Like we don't know how the weather really works down at that area.
Hold on. Someone asked about, is it always been? I think it was Proud.
Yep.
Has that ice wall always been in the same position? Now I'm going back to my Weeble Wobble theory. Now I'm flipping back the globe. Now hold on. Now I have seen documentaries where and someone said dragons, and like all along the coastline of like South America and everything, if you look at it, and this guy did this thing, and it did look like a dragon's foot. I'd say the wall looks like a big tree, and then you got that tree in Wyoming. I suspect over millennia that ice wall has traversed, depending on how this globe is weeble wobbling, or the flat Earth is. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's been in the same place every time. But
The pyramids were underwater.
It's not always a desert. Yeah, it happened. It did happen.
I think it's speculation, but
what happened?
continents really do match up, don't they?
Proud, you said Tangia. What'd you call? What'd you say?
One mic.
Sorry.
There's something you said about what was it? Kind of lost the train of thought. Yeah, the climates. Yeah, I want to talk about the climates. Yeah, the Earth is going through different cycles. Yeah. I was talking about the cycles. It's happened. There's a long cycle and there's a short cycle. The longest cycle we have is 26,000 years. This also goes with civilization, climate, and many other things. The shortest cycle that we have is 300 years, 400 years, and the next most impactful cycle is for 3,000 years and 6,000 years. This is where you see civilizations die. Civilizations die, or people or community just doesn't function anymore because the climate kind of drastically changed, or the waterways drastically changed, where they had set up their civilization. They could no longer sustain it. They had to move to other places. There are many places you can find that people used to live here, they built structures, then everybody left all of a sudden. It is because of these changes in cycles. Yes, it's predictable. That's why I'm saying it's cycles. It's just like seasons. Hold on. Every year, every year there's 4 seasons, and these cycles keep on repeating itself. Also, these changes that I'm talking about, they keep on repeating themselves in those intervals of years. It's a constant thing that you can predict. So it's repetitive. It's not random. It is predictable. It's not random. For example, if you look at ancient civilization, hold on. If you look at ancient civilization that have lived through these ages, like if you look at India, they talk about the yugas and all these things. They're talking about these cycles. They have different cycles, bigger cycles, smaller cycles. They studied them. Even the Aztec calendar is just about studying the cycles. They study the pattern of the cycles and how it changes things on Earth. These things are predictable. No, it's always predictable because the same events usually happen during specific star alignments. Every time, it never misses. So it's very predictable. Most of these cycles usually happen during specific star alignments. So people can never miss. It's always predictable.
He said it's always happening at the same time, so it's always predictable. Um, so yeah, that's what he said.
Not necessarily. For example, even that desert, many people don't understand. They never explain to you where that sand is coming from. All that sand was not there. There's more story to that. Hmm? When we're talking about climate and weather, it's cyclical. But humans, with their technology, they can do whatever they want. Whatever they do will not be part of the cycle. Maybe the cycle might influence their mindset and all this other thing, but whatever they do is not part of the cycle. But let's say a place becoming a cold desert or a dry desert, whatever it is, that cycle nature can be known because the pattern is repeatable. But what humans do with their civilization. Me, I'm speaking for myself because I study these things individually, and I get where you're coming from. Most of the archaeology that is sponsored and they speak like they know what they're saying, but they don't really know. But me, even when I do my research in terms of history and all this thing, I also try to connect energetically and spiritually and look at the landscape at those times, and I get a lot of information that you might not get in a remnant of a cup or something like that, or a broken jar. The psychic energy of a civilization is always there, and you can. Hmm?
Hey, one mic. Yeah, one mic. That's not what he's saying. I think you guys are kind of arguing past each other here. He's talking about the Earth itself having particular cycles, disasters being one of them, and that those disasters are predictable. Now, what humans do in between those disasters, he was saying that's not the predictable part, right? That's not predictable. So what we build and all of that stuff, yeah. All right, you guys cool?
No, I didn't say anything about spinning around anything. These cycles, they're just waves. Even you can observe them in the ocean. Waves, they are just part of cycles. Sometimes they have constructive interference and destructive interference. This affect the vortices that is forming around the Earth that causes the dryness or the tropical climates to exist in places. There are places that are cold now that used to be tropical because of the kind of vortices that were there. These vortices are influenced by the energy of the stars and everything around us. They all work together to shape what. It's just like you slapping water, it will affect the other end of the water in one way or another. It's not an individual thing, it's a collective shift in some sort of a way. And it has nothing to do with the globe. It's just how energy does. That's why they find these patterns in the stars. They find this pattern in the stars, and the patterns in the stars relate to things that happen on the ground always. You can say that, but you can put the peace and all those things in terms of climate, a peaceful climatic condition, a very harsh climatic condition, very cold, and those things, but not in terms of human being peaceful and praying. I'm not talking in terms of that cycle. Yeah, there are those who predicted and migrated. There are those who did not predict and they died, or they had to adapt in other means to survive in those harsh conditions. So,
Yeah,
no,
I hear
those
you on
what
that.
even I understand what you're saying, like the desert. If you read the Mahabharata War in India, it explains to you how most of these deserts were formed. There were battlegrounds and all these things. There were battlegrounds, and even you look at the shape of the desert, the Sahara Desert, it goes all the way into Arabia. It's like it's a path of an explosion blowing in a specific direction. Not nuclear. It was a plasma weapon. For example, when you go to what is it called? Where they find Like for example, you can see some buildings in the desert. This looks like a building, but it has turned to look like a rock or something because it was attacked by plasma. Plasma was what was used to turn most of the buildings we had into. Yeah. No, I'm not talking about dew. I know what dew you're talking about, but I'm talking specifically a plasma weapon. Like the weapon they used to attack the civilizations were not regular weapon. They were plasma. It melted those buildings. It melted them in a
Yeah,
way
so
that
he's
dew
saying
doesn't work.
maybe it's a similar to DEW,
Yeah,
a
it's a
plasma.
similar principle in
Yeah.
technology. Yeah, like there was an intentional shift on the magnetic fields of the Earth 75,000 years ago, approximately. I think that's where most of the things started happening that doesn't make sense, including the giants and all these other things.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, no, it's literally you're on point, because when you look at the Earth from above, you see the stretch across the green surface of all the continents in the area of between Western Asia all the way through over to the top of Africa, right? That whole swath has just been annihilated and left to be a desert.
You said stretch. You said stretch. I have to ask a question. You said stretch.
Yeah.
What
Path,
happens?
stretch.
What happens if the Earth was global and it spun itself flat? Is that possible? Because we used to be like one big old land continent, and then all the continents now, whatever, we got 7 or 8 continents. They all spread out.
What are we on? We on a fruit roll up app world now? Is that what we doing? Fruit roll up Earth?
No, it's a serious. I'm sorry, I had to jump in, but I think we could have spun ourselves flat. Yeah, fruit roll up. There you go.
In a time dilation way, maybe.
Hey Ken, what's going on, brother?
Who can explain the difference in weather
Yeah, I
between the
wanted
northern and
to.
southern hemisphere?
I
There's a
wanted to talk about the. I've heard it come up a couple times, talking about a wobble, and I want to put that to bed. The wobble is put at, well, one of them anyways, is put up there to explain the precession of the stars. And if that were true, then the planets would precess also. Yeah, and the planets aren't precessing. So, to have a wobble is, I don't know. I don't see how anybody can buy a wobble.
Isn't it funny how they always depict the galaxy also as flat? They always depict the galaxy as flat also. It's a flat center circling each other.
I'm just saying what I heard.
Well, it sounds like isospin or hypercharge, but I don't want to relate the really small to the really big.
Okay, let's look at this like a torus field, like even when we're talking about the wobble, because I always try to see what they are saying in their model and how it relates with reality. If we look at the Earth as a torus field, and at the center of the torus is where the plane has manifested physically, it looks flat like that. If you project the same image of a torus, let's say to the solar system, it's the same thing keeps on occurring repeatedly. Galaxy, that's why they're always depicting galaxy. It's almost flat. It's never globe or anything. It's always flat, rotating upon an axis of some sort. Because I think they're just trying to replicate this torus thing. Let's say if we're moving outside of the Earth, we're moving out of the influence of the field of the Earth. Wouldn't that mean we'll be like moving outside of the Earth will be like shifting to, let's say, a different how do I use it? Waveguide, like a different form of vortex on torus that makes you perceive a different kind of reality in some sort of way.
Have you guys thought about the ice wall being the reflection of the moon?
doesn't it make more sense that we have an electromagnetic field, and then presumably we have the ether wind, the ether, whatever that is. And so now you've got two sources of light, a moon and a sun. And the sun is what? Electromagnetic radiation, right? So you got an electromagnetic field and ether, and you've got something giving off electromagnetic radiation, and they move around us like it's on a toroid or something.
You know, we don't know what is happening in between the moon and the surface of the Earth. I mean, maybe they think they do, but what if there's something in the medium that's causing a difference in the light? You know, as it is coming here, and maybe that's why we have these differences between the sunlight and the moonlight. Just an idea.
I haven't heard mainstream science say that. I've heard I've heard flat earthers. I've heard flat earthers say it.
I knew
Well,
I knew a witchy girl that would collect
ouch.
moon water.
Explain why the decay of the moon happens quickly under the light of the moon. It is because of the vortex energy coming from the moon allows the release of the stored energy in the plants. You see, the light of the moon is colder usually because that's the coldness. That coldness is projecting some sort of coldness, and this is the field that affects the rate of decomposition. Yeah. While the sun ripens things because it's a different kind of vortex.
Yeah, does anybody have any link on that to send to InfoTrue? He was asking for like a source or a reference. If you can help him out with that, post it up top.
Only thing I can find is that they say that Moonlight.
Hey, Info True, how you doing, bro? Welcome. Yeah, that doesn't make any claim towards or away from the decay rate. So let's stick with that. Yeah, go ahead. Libra, stop. Let him talk.
Well, you know how salt is in the ocean and Antarctica doesn't have salt like a battery?
No, he's. All right, all right, all right, all right. We ain't gonna get into an argument. All right. What he brought up was very valid. If you cannot show that something has actually been studied, looked at, then you can't make you can't make a claim. You can say you think, you can say you speculate, but you cannot say it's science, bro. It's science. I Googled it. I can Google just about anything. And if you go deep enough into the search, you can find somebody somewhere that says, yeah, this is what's happening. But it doesn't mean that science has shown that it's happening. And that's exactly what he's saying. That if you haven't, if you can't show scientifically that something does something, then you can't make the claim and say that that's the way it is. It's ridiculous.
And on that note, hey, Info True, welcome to the space. Your first time here, or what's up? Oh, maybe he's on mute. Sure. Why did you come here? What was your purpose for jumping in here? You mentioned a topic. Um, we actually have a few people from our side going down there to do what they can towards those means. Have you ever heard of Witsit? Okay, please state it again. Is he roboting for everyone else? That's okay. We got it. He's gonna make his point. All right, Nate. Yeah, let him go. Let him go. It's okay. So, info true. Have you ever heard of the coffee cup caustic? Okay. So, hmm okay. So, can you point out? Yeah. Yeah. I was just gonna ask. Can you demonstrate why it wouldn't work? Awesome. That's awesome. Let's do that. Okay. I'd like to. I'd like you to demonstrate that. Okay. Can you give us a demonstration of how this breaks everything? We're not. I'm not talking about Witsid. I'm here talking with you, brother. Hey, I'm not. Okay, so
Don't
please.
keep talking over or I will mute you.
Okay, so please post something up in the top so we can all take a look at it and discuss it. No, no, no. We don't want to hear all of that. Oh boy, that was funny. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, InfoTrue. Hey, watch it, buddy. Watch it, or you'll just get banned out of here. Chill. Relax. No, what? Hey, for everyone listening, I want to say that I am actually quite proud of myself right now. I just got my Nazi badge live for everyone to hear. This is excellent. Thank you, InfoTrue, for bestowing that upon me. I was wondering if it would happen, but it finally has. Yeah. 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 Thank you. Thank you. I was gonna say that, but why bother?